Hello folks, welcome to our new video. Today we have interesting subreddit, so prepare and let's get started. What currently legal thing do you expect to be illegal in the next 20 years? We're trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Seriously, the entire cell spam industry needs to go. Everything from scam calls, please don't donate to your local police association, to those obnoxious political SMS texts. If you don't understand how annoying those are, clearly you don't have an area code in a battleground state. I get those texts from other states and it's so obnoxious. Like, hello, I have a Colorado area code, why am I getting texts about Alaskan politics? It's a Red Queen's race, however, so you ban them. Now they're in another country, so you ban their numbers. Now they obtain a list of valid numbers and spoof them, so you block them. Now they move on to the next one. No matter what, they will find ways around them. Charities spending less than 5% of the money they are donated to the cause due to big overheads. One of the biggest disappointments was learning how little the Wounded Warrior Project actually spends on veterans. Most goes to overhead, then they donate to other organizations with their own overhead, and lastly they spend just enough on vets to drum up PR to get more donations. I work for a charity and this convo makes me sad. Staff is paid a pittance, we bleed qualified staff because pay is low. We are a charity that provides services and support to people that need those services. A lot of our budget also goes to paying salaries and training staff that support and train the volunteers who work with the people who need it. Volunteers need training and support because being on the ground working with people is hard. Trying to simplify the cost of running a charity in terms of some random percent going back to the cause is a really complex measure. Are computers for our staff that trains volunteers via Zoom a part of that percentage? I'm assuming not, but without those computers and IT support, our volunteers would not be able to do their work with the people that need it most. Most charities and nonprofits that are actually on the ground working with the people and not just channeling funds from point A to point B have big overheads. That's what allows them to do the work. In addition, think about all the other work nonprofits do, like educate, lobby governments for more support, research, etc. This all takes massive amounts of overhead. Child marriage. Tennessee is trying to erase the legal age of requirements for marriage. 20 years, not 20 more decades. People misunderstand the intent of low marriage ages in the US. It's not intended for adults to marry children, it's intended for situations where a teen couple gets pregnant so the couple can get married, even though they're underage. There's a provision that it requires the parents' consent with the assumption that parents wouldn't let them marry someone inappropriately aged. Obviously, that portion needs to be adjusted, but statistically, being born out of wedlock alone dramatically lowers your projected lifetime success, so the intent is actually good, even if it's created a loophole for sleazy older dudes to marry young teens, not to mention sleazy parents allowing it. That loophole, mostly abused for arranged marriages, needs to be closed. Just got my marriage certificate in Arizona and they allow underage marriage here only with parental consent, and the couple must be within 3 years of age of each other. So like 1916 could get married. Adds protection so some 40-year-old guy isn't marrying an 11-year-old. Family vlog channels. There's been many instances where families have exposed intimate, inappropriate parts of a child's upbringing, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are legal cases in the future for exploitation or damages. I'd say it will be age restricted, at least since the kids can't consent. My husband runs an ad agency and they do a lot of collaborations with influencers, some of whom have been around since they were really young, or pushed into the business by their parents. Or these family/mummy blog situations. He always says in 15 to 20 years, when these kids are adults, we're gonna see some unprecedented court cases of kids basically suing their parents for flaunting them online against their will. Often these influencers, God I hate that word, are making bank, and it would be interesting to see how much of this money actually reaches the kids or is just being spent by the parents. Anyways, we have a total ban of posting images of our kid online because of this. So many social media profiles specifically dedicated to autistic and disabled children and teenagers that are completely offensive, invasive, and infantilizing. This content is dangerous not only from a privacy standpoint, for real, you should not be posting photos or videos of your children at all, but also from a basic human decency standpoint. These kids are gonna grow up with videos of their autistic meltdowns plastered all over the internet with no way to erase or undo it. I wonder how many of those kids will end up as adults with extensive therapy. A lot of the ones from the golden age of YT are teenagers now. Family YouTube channels. Everyone remember that Daddy of 5 channel where the guy got in trouble then cancelled for abusing his stepkids on YouTube, then, and you can't make this shit up, he made a rap song about how he was the victim or some shit. That's right, a rap song. What a time to be alive. This especially needs to go considering there are certain channels on Insta, for example, who are literally selling photo packages of their young children. One TikTok user exposed this one chick who was selling photo packages of her like 12-13-year-old daughters in swimming suits. It blows my mind that we don't already have laws concerning child exploitation through social media. There's a lot of money to be made, and it's sad that some people care more about that than the safety and privacy of their children. Kids who appear in monetized videos should be paid and protected as professional performers. Not that protections for child actors are that great, but it beats being completely unregulated. Multi-level marketing, a lot more people are seeing these for what they are. I worked as an IT consultant for large e-commerce setups. We're talking contracts at the low end of maybe $50 million plus. Some of the largest customers I worked with were MLMs based in Utah. There was no end to the money. They'd gladly fly in people from across the world to solve an issue, often at last minute, when most other companies would try solve it remotely. They were building systems capable of shipping more product per day than the Amazon warehouse down the road. Which made no sense, but they needed it for the growth curve. It was absolutely insane. Some charities are sadly also MLMs. Autism Speaks is a huge example of one that makes my blood boil. I'm a dude with autism myself and it's fucking revolting. Started at a pure place but became a money-hungry cesspool, and the founders' views destroyed that even more. Edit, those who are saying the cancer ribbons are BS, at least they led to something. Avoid the jigsaw icon and blue light symbols at all costs if you truly are a group that wish to help those with autism. It just makes you associate with those heartless bastards. Edit 2, when I said pure place, I meant to help their son. Their views and the execution of the entire charity is what caused it to become the disgusting thing it is today. It's an MLM because of the pyramid scheme style it has in its funding management. MLMs, from my understanding, are just a different form of that. Also, thanks for the awards X. Subscription services for certain product features. It's ridiculous that one requires a subservice to use the key fob for his/her car. I feel that this is going to just get worse. I always drive old, 10+ year cars. Fuck this shit in 10 years. Something I found out recently is that you can no longer just buy Photoshop as a one-time purchase. There is now only a subscription service, which means two things. 1. You'll never be able to access Photoshop without an internet connection, and 2. You'll pay more than cost to get Photoshop as a program after a certain point. Edit, apparently it can still be used offline. I never bought it due to the subscription model, and so I did not know for certain and only made an educated guess based off other subscription softwares I've had to use in the past. Telemarketing. God, please, ban telemarketing, make robo-dialing illegal, and require that insurance companies, banks, etc. give people an option to talk to a human in the initial menu. It'll never get banned per se, but almost certainly the technology to ensure that telemarketing never reaches anyone who doesn't want it will happen. Already my phone, a Pixel, can determine that a phone call is likely suspicious and have an AI pick up and ask what the reason for the call is. 99% of spam calls I receive just end right there without me even picking up the phone. We've been trying to reach you about your extended warranty. Government officials owning/trading individual stocks. Edit, read the post as hoping and not as legit expecting. Edit 2, I was implying use of blind trust/broad index funds, opposed to individual stocks. I agree, it won't happen in practice. A strong transparency law would be a step in the right direction. You wish, who would make that law? Also, they would just get their spouse to trade for them like they already do. I'm cool with them buying index funds. Betting on the overall health of the economy is a good thing. They just shouldn't be allowed to short them or sell them while having access to privileged information. Commercials for drugs, illegal in many countries already. I don't understand it to begin with. When I go to the doctor, they recommend the medication. Because they're the doctor. Do people go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I saw a commercial for Cymbalta, can I have a prescription for it?" I mean, they must since they're advertising to someone, but it's just weird to me. I just assume the doctor knows better than I do. Edit. Alright, I understand now how this could work in certain situations. If it worked out for you, I'm glad it did. Edit 2. Also, to clarify, Cymbalta was just the first drug I thought of. I'm not making a statement on Cymbalta in particular, I've never taken it and I know nothing about it, only legal in two countries, the US and New Zealand. As a Canadian, I find it so off-putting to watch American news channels like CNN and MSNBC. Almost every single commercial is related to some kind of medical illness. I find it so weird that I have to mute it just so I don't have to listen to another. Side effects may include again. In America? Wouldn't bet on it. Companies buying single-family homes. Hopefully, this is something I'd become more interested in because it's destroying the housing market in my area. If anyone is aware of bills or lobbying efforts on this LMK, I would be interested in any orgs putting together model legislation to add to yours, selling the land under a home in a manufactured home community without the community's approval and safeguards in place. I believe it is currently legal in 30 states for doctors to do pelvic exams on unconscious women without their consent for educational and teaching purposes. This better change soon. 3 links. Edit. Thank you everyone that is sharing their experiences, adding on more information, or providing additional examples of medical injustices. I definitely have been learning a lot. As someone who want to go into the medical field, there are so many new things others have brought up that I need to read into. Wait. You're saying they aren't doing this for medical procedures, but they're using an unconscious woman for educational purposes? I need to make sure I'm reading this right. While we are talking about non-consensual medical procedures, it better be illegal for IVF doctors to use their own semen by then. There's a grown donor baby on TikTok that talks all about how she has like 70 siblings because her doctor used his own semen when doing artificial insemination, even when the patient brought in the semen they wanted to use. In something like 30 states, that's completely legal. I hope that in the next 20 years a woman raping a man is classed as rape under UK law, because currently it isn't. The same problem exists in my state, GA, here in the US. I was sexually assaulted by a woman and it completely derailed my life, with most of the worst stuff that happened occurred because I reported it. I was told over and over again by university officials, police, and other figures of authority that ultimately all that mattered was that I was a man and she was a woman. I was eventually expelled expressly for reporting and speaking out about the situation. And I have been fighting a legal battle with the university ever since over whether men can even be assaulted and how they handled my and other people's experiences. The law needs to be made gender neutral for everyone. I just found this out a few weeks ago. And was disgusted but also surprised. If the game can be sold to children, it should not have microtransactions. More importantly, kids should not be playing adult games. I'm tired of 11-year-olds kicking my ass in Warzone. Edit. Since this is getting big, it's mostly a joke. I grew up as a young child playing these kind of games. I was there when tea-bagging became a thing. I've been tea-bagged and I have done the tea-bagging. I have also been told how busy my mother is and have told others how busy their mom was. Games aren't sold anymore to children. They're free with microtransactions, and most parents usually just use their own accounts for phones given to kids. I agree, most kids are playing live service games now and not single-player story games where you can just sell the game at $60 to $80 and add DLC later. Live service games have ongoing costs associated with them. Aside from a subscription service or microtransactions in some form, how are they supposed to continue running the game? Going to work while sick. Did pandemic teach us anything? I never understood this mentality. Just yesterday I had a minor corns flare-up. Nothing serious, just post-flare-up. It's not a comfortable in general, for want of a better word. My boss? Stay at home and do what work you can for the day. Don't use up a sick day for that. Also, my boss, you have a cold? Not COVID? Please work from home all the same, no need to pass it on to others. Now, doesn't need a sick day, just do what you can. Definitely not in the US. Now people just don't test and go in sick with COVID and call it just allergies until it gets too obvious, then call out due to a stomach bug on the worst day or two. On my last day at my old job, had a coworker come around to each person individually to let us know that his wife was COVID positive and that he felt a little sick but had tested and was negative. Dude. You can do your job remote, why are you in the office? Furthermore, if you have to be here, why are you walking around making sure anything you do have has a jolly good time spreading? Hopefully, having a whole TV channel with the label of news but consisting of entirely fabricated alternative facts and mostly just really bad opinions, basically, all corporate news channels. They aren't journalists, they are opinionated talking heads. And people take those opinions as facts, which is why we have such a misinformed segment of our country, and why these news stations don't do the one thing that journalists should do: hold truth to power. Edit. To sum up, you can have your channel with opinionated talking heads, but don't call yourselves a news channel, because doing so misrepresents your content to the audience. Yeah, news should be neutral like it was in the 50s and 60s. A neutral news source is vital for a functional democracy. I think the problem is the entire concept of 24-hour TV news channels. Commercial drones. Have you seen what Ukraine's been doing with small commercial ones? That has to be freaking out some politicians, military officials, and police. I get where you're coming from, but I don't really see how any ban can be enforced. Drones have so many commercial applications, and can literally be made in someone's shed, with a 3D printer and off-the-shelf electronics. I reckon that the police or whoever will just have to get really good at shooting them down and just trust that no one does anything stupid. In China, you have to register every drone purchase with the police. If you don't in time, they'll come check up, as they already have all address info from the store. They also have to report purchases. Certain parts of major cities you can't even switch on your drone, as its geolocation prohibits it, so there are some potential workarounds so people can still use them, but with restrictions. That's not just a China thing, many commercial drones have geofencing built in to prevent their use in many locations where flying them is illegal without special permission. Long one, whatever. Thanks folks for watching this video. Leave a like and subscribe to support channel. See ya next video.